Good morning, friends. We're out and about in the city of Da Nang in Vietnam. I really like the vibe of this place. It's kind of got a small village feel, but with a big city vibe, but with a beach. And all these little kind of side streets where we are that feel a little bit like, I don't know, leafy France, maybe? So anyway, you're coming for a walk with me for this episode while I share a little story that has got me thinking about identity and how much labels help and hinder in terms of identity. And I don't know really where I've ended up, because I don't think labels are wrong per se. I think sometimes that they can be as limiting as they can be helpful. So my husband had a sore shoulder earlier this week. And years ago, he had this funny thing. I don't ever actually know what it was precisely, but he would wake up and his legs would have grown too much overnight, and so his legs would pull out of their joints basically, and he would wake up and not be able to walk. And his mum had been taking him to doctors, and they'd say, take lots of aspirin, take this, take that, all very Western interventions. And then finally they found a doctor who did acupuncture, and so he would be taken each morning when he couldn't walk, and he would have treatment, and he would walk out of the surgery. So he has always been a huge fan of acupuncture. I'm going to pause for a second while I cross this road. Okay, we're back. I have to pause crossing roads here. Number one, that's like a 6-lane road behind me. But also, anytime I'm in a country where they drive on the other side of the road, it confuses the heck out of me, and then I have to really concentrate to make sure that I'm not going to step out and be squashed. So we're on Da Nang Beach now, so beautiful day. It's a fair bit of traffic noise, but hopefully the microphone is doing its thing. So anyway, he's been a huge proponent of acupuncture. When we first met in 1996, I ended up having a quite bad car accident. So I was sat at a set of lights and someone hit me doing 100 kilometers an hour on the right side. So I ended up with quite bad whiplash, had to take a significant amount of time off work, like months of time off work. Couldn't raise my arms above my head, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, quite significant. But at the time, all soft tissue injury. Just giving you a bit of a view of the beach there. And yeah, I was told at the time that I'd probably have lasting issues from my neck. Not too long after that, I was hit just at a set of lights. Someone didn't stop in time. And so there was 2 accidents very close together, and that also gave me quite significant whiplash. So anyway, that's back in 1996. So fast forward to, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, estrogen starts to drop with the lovely perimenopause changes, and I start to get out of control joint pain, like ridiculous joint pain, and keep on, because I'm training as I have done my entire life, train many days a week, and my body just can't keep up with it anymore. And I keep on doing this thing where the right side of my back just goes completely into spasm. And at the time, don't make any kind of connections. I finally go to a doctor, and for the first time ever, even though I have gone to doctors from dislocating elbows, tearing the labrum in my hip, tearing multiple ligaments in my shoulders, etc., over the years, no one has ever put together those set of symptoms and asked the question, oh, you don't know if you've got Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Anyway, get sent to a rheumatologist, get diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos. That's a difference in the way that your body builds collagen, so gives you skin that's a different texture. It's also the reason why I'm wearing a cover and support over the place where I got my sun cancer taken out because I have to give extra support to the skin. Otherwise, I will end up with massive keloid scars because of the way that my skin works. But it also means that things like your joints, your blood vessels work very differently to other people. Anyway, one of the things that also happens with that is that you can have what's called cervical instability, which is when your neck is... got people behind me carrying his pole to work on his motorbike, where your neck is quite unstable, and my neck actually curves in the other direction, so it's called a kyphotic neck. And I was always told that was from the accident. Anyway, so I have an identity by now, 51, firmly entrenched in I'm a person who will always live with significant neck pain and at least bi-daily, if not daily, headaches. Also going to pause here for the beautiful view. Look at that. And yet I've just walked out of the city centre. Isn't that crazy? City and beach so close together. So many things to do and see, and this path that I'm walking on, it is massive. So unlike all the Bali footpaths that made me really struggle, my exercising heart is happy here. I'm doing about 25,000 steps a day. Anyway, so I have an identity, and I've never thought, oh, I am just someone who is doomed to have neck pain. But it's definitely been an identity. If someone asked me medical conditions, that would be one of the things that I would say, that I have this joint thing and I live with chronic neck pain. Anyway, fast forward to being in Da Nang this week. Shane had a sore shoulder, acupuncture wise. The reason why we both trust it so much is Shane's experience with his legs, but then also after my significant first accident, nothing was working. And back then I was a straighty 180 scientist who didn't believe in Eastern medicine. And finally Shane got to get me to go to acupuncture, and that's the only thing that would give me any sort of musculoskeletal release or relief. So we have been looking for an acupuncturist here because Shane has got this shoulder that won't settle down. And we come across this place called the Traditional Medicine Clinic. There's two of them in Da Nang, and you can go along. We booked in on Sunday just for Shane this time, and you see a doctor, and then they prescribe a course of treatment, and that could include acupuncture, which is what we were after, and it could include herbal medicine, it could include cupping, massage, whatever. And so what they had suggested for him was 5 days of daily acupuncture and massage. They didn't have space for me on that day, but my curiosity got the better of me overnight because he woke up significantly more settled pain-wise. Not magic cure, just much more settled. Second day was even better. So on the second day, I make an appointment for myself. And I'm talking to this lady all through Google Translate because she did have pretty good English, but some of the things that I was talking about medical-wise, we had to do the Google Translate thing backwards and forwards because there just was no way that we were going to be able to do it otherwise. And some of the things that, like for instance in traditional Chinese medicine, now I'm making a wild assumption here too, I should say. I'm in Vietnam. Is this clinic traditional Chinese medicine? I'm not sure. The reason I'm using that language is because that's what I've come to know the group of ancient medicine practices to balance the body that originated in China. I don't know if there is a specific Vietnamese flavour to this. I'm sure there is. So yeah, if that's a mistake, that's my mistake. It's not a reflection on the way a Vietnamese traditional medicine goes. Anyway, I'm talking to this lady. First of all, what struck me was they don't have any label in their medicine that is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And second, they don't have a label in their medical system for ADHD, which I thought was very interesting. And it's so funny to me that I studied traditional Chinese medicine, Oriental psychology, 5-element theory, lots of the different practices of Eastern philosophy and medicine for almost 5 years. And not once have I ever thought to look up how TCM approaches ADHD. That's another side quest for my brain to go on. But I'm saying to her about the EDS, and she said something very curious to me, and this is what's got me thinking about identity and labels and helping and hindering. So she said to me, we can't do anything to fix the label. We can fix or greatly reduce the pain and the tension and the way that your system is holding itself because of the label. So that was the first chiropractic adjustment for me. Second, she said, and when we treat, it's like your system receives nectar. Your system receives nectar. And I'm like, okay, I'm not really sure what that means, but it sounds damn good. Sign me up, sister. So anyway, I say yes to treatment while I'm having my hour of massage and my hour of acupuncture for the wildly affordable price of about $440,000. And at today's current exchange rates, that's about $22. So in Australia, that would cost multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the affordability is wild, but as I'm laying on the table and thinking, I can't fix the label, but I can fix the pain that is created by the pattern that the label gives you. And when we do that, it will be like nectar to your system. So since then, I've had a day of coaching calls yesterday, and I've been talking about this understanding of that I've always believed that I'll be someone who lives with neck pain and daily headaches. And if I'm lucky, maybe one headache every 2 days. And she just gave me but I can rotate pretty good. I'm still a bit stiff on the left. Only just gotten out of bed 10 minutes ago too. I can do this neck flexion thing, which I haven't been able to do that in years because it's caused me so much pain that I haven't been able to move in that. And at the same time, she's actually given my hips some love, which is another thing that I thought that I would always have to live with. And it's got me to thinking and having these really good juicy conversations with clients and client calls yesterday of what parts of you, or what parts of your belief system about who you are and how you move through the world do you just take as a given that is not the full field of possibilities. And in this case, I had someone give me like a little gift in a bow, in a tiny cute little Vietnamese doctor bow that said, you don't have to live like this. That's not who you are. And so if you were to look at your identity and any of the labels that you've been given or given yourself, and honestly check in with how helpful and how harmful have they been, potentially, or limiting, or maybe not harmful. Because here's where I'm standing with that. I'm not saying that the labels that we have, like another label I have is only child, like that's a factual label. I am an only child. What story comes with that depends on who you are. Many people would say an only child is the most self-absorbed, selfish, arsehole person on the planet. I have other friends that have had labels of only children as, oh, you poor thing, you must have been so lonely as a kid. That's another thing. The label depends on the story that you tell around the label, right? But I'm not saying that they're not useful. I have found it incredibly useful to understand why my brain, my nervous system, my body react differently to what other people's do. mainly because it's given me a lot of self-compassion, because I haven't been able to hold on to the story that there's something wrong with me that I can't do those things. I also can see the flip side, because I have just allowed, especially the EDS label and the car accident ×2 label, to dictate how I thought my body should function. And that's wild. Maybe we should all upgrade our expectations of the field of energy to be, like one of the things I said out loud for the first time yesterday was, I'm coming back from this trip the most healthy and vital in all aspects of life that I've ever been. And I'm like, in my mind, that's a done deal. That is a done fucking deal. Tick, tick, already delivered. I'm just living into it. Imagine if I had that much conviction around health and vitality and allowed the field of possibilities to be much larger than what the label of EDS or ADHD or anything has given me. Because like I said in the last episode, I was given another label just before we came here. And that label comes with a, oh, we'll just rip your bits out. I'll just send you for a hysterectomy. Hey, thanks. Number one, I don't actually believe that. Just showing you the sign here. Nang Beach. So beautiful. Hot out this morning. Yeah, that I don't believe that I need major surgery. And what I believe is that my body can come into its natural balance if I do the things that it needs to be fed by, to be nourished by, etc. So yeah, the other thing is this nectar. I came home the first acupuncture night, been there about 2:30, treatment's 2 hours. We went to this incredibly busy and loud shopping centre just afterwards, which we didn't realise was going to be that busy or that crowded. Had we known that, we wouldn't have done that post acupuncture. Got home, had a very quick dinner, got home. I'll just show you, there's these dancing troupes everywhere. And often the dancing troupes they're all different music, they're all different styles of dancing. It's like they're having a dance off. I love it, such cool energy. Now we're coming down to the more ballroom dancing section, and maybe we'll just show you and then trying to continue before, when the music is not so loud, because I think this is going to be very loud. So turn your volume down. So cool. So cool. Okay. And then there's dude with the motorbike trying to get through everyone. Okay. Sorry. I knew that was going to be loud, but that was a bit hectic. Oh, I've lost my train of thought. Identity. Oh yes, we came home, had a quick dinner, and about an hour and a half later, I start getting this feeling of almost like I am high. I just feel very relaxed. And she had said after the first treatment that the identity of someone who has pain in their neck becomes so postural and so embedded in your body that there's this bracing and vigilance all the time, right? And I feel that in my system. I've been feeling for ages like there's something in me that really wants to work on. I do a lot of nervous system regulation within my capacity, but there's obviously things that I don't know about that I could be working on or working with. And I have to say, acupuncture will be one of them. Anyway, I got the feeling of the nectar and I didn't realise. Then yesterday I said to her, is this what you're meaning? And she's, yes. So basically, the feeling of the nectar is this feeling of being high, completely calm, completely free of muscle tension in the neck and shoulders. And then it's like this ooey gooey, delicious feeling settled over me from the top of my head all the way through my system. And I was like, I don't know what that shit is. That is magic. And it has completely challenged my old belief that I am currently replacing in real time, that I am someone that always has to have this level of pain and obviously what comes with it is the structure and the posture of being always on guard. So wild, in the wild, lessons in identity. But anyway, my key question that I want to leave you with is, if you've got to rewrite any of the labels you've been given, no matter whether those labels have been external, from your family, from culture, from society, from expectations of others, or if they've been formed internally, and sometimes they're both, which one would you choose to rip off and put in the bin? Or maybe just open up the field of possibilities, like I always say, 1 degree. We don't have to go wild here. We have to going from an identity of someone who has chronic pain in their neck to like, I'm never having pain again in my neck. Maybe that's too far in one shift. I don't know. Maybe not. But there is definitely a field of possibilities that's opened up for me in the last 36 hours. So that is super exciting. So yeah, what would be yours? What would be yours? What would be one of the labels that you've been given or you've given yourself where you're just believing that is just the way that it's always going to be? Pick it up, look at it from every single angle, and ask yourself, who would I be without that label? Who would I be without believing this limiting story? And maybe once upon a time it was a helpful label. Maybe it helped you understand yourself. Maybe it got you to a certain stage of your evolution. Maybe there was a benefit to it. But if you're honest, maybe that benefit has gone. Yeah, I think the other thing that's on my mind as I'm talking this through is, for years I followed 5-element theory and lived by traditional Chinese medicine, and that's how I balance myself. It's only been in the last few years that I've become more, oh my God, this is so out of balance, and because we have not had a good acupuncturist, I've gone back to Western medical. And you come into an environment like this and you realize that the way of life, here at least, I see people tapping meridians, I see them meditating, I see them eating the sun, which is another old vitality boosting. I was taught it as part of 5-element theory, so I don't know what the source of it was, but eating the sun is taking in the nourishment from the sun. There's people gathered on the beach doing qigong and tai chi, the dance troops that I just showed you. And if they're not on the beach, I don't know if you can see behind me, but there's parking lots with thousands of scooters in there. This is just an average Wednesday morning, right? It's not the weekend. It's an average Wednesday morning, and part of life is to get out and take care of your physical, emotional, and energetic needs before you even think about going to a workplace. And I think that there's a lot in that for us. And then if they're not on the beach exercising, so swimming, not so much running, but swimming, walking, dancing, qigong, lots of Westerners doing yoga, not so much the local people or those who appear to be local. Oh, we're going past another jazz troop. And if they're not doing that, they've gotten out of their exercise, out of the beach, out of the dance troupe lineup, and they're sitting in massive big groups having cups of tea, laughing and chatting and connecting and catching up. And I'm like, this is where we've all got it back to front. Because how many of us have that in our day-to-day, daily? I don't know about you, but certainly not in my little corner of the world is it normal for the vast majority to get out of bed, to exercise, to breathe, to meditate, to move their body, and then to sit and have cups of tea and laugh with their girlfriends, and then to go about their day. And it's much more about being life-centric, health-centric, human needs-centric than it is about just getting up and the first thing you do is have breakfast, shower, make up, and get in the corporate suit to move to this so detached, so asked about, so fucked up way of life. I think I'm going to have major reverse culture shock. And I'm very aware that only 2 episodes I was sitting in a grieving period, like missing my kids. I'm still missing my kids, but there's something quite magical about Vietnam. I knew that there was going to be something really special here. For me, my system kept on telling me that Vietnam was going to shift something very large. And I wonder whether part of that shift is the identity and the who I am. And the who I am used to be that I got out of bed every day, moved my body without fail, had a lot more time with friends, a lot more fun, a lot more dopamine, a lot more adventure. And then over the years, I think my life has gotten, smaller and smaller. And going out in the world challenges every single thing that I believe to be true about myself. Which is, after all, why we are traveling. So that is my thoughts on identity and labels. I would love to hear your experience of that. And what's your thoughts on the labels that you've been given or given yourself, helpful or harmful, but possibly limiting? And what would you open up for yourself, even if it was only 1%? To open up the field of possibilities to maybe this is just not who I am. Maybe it's a story and it's only showing me part of it, part of the whole field of possibilities. So yeah, from freshly 2 days in, 1 to go, acupunctured and nourished neck Kylie, which I just cannot believe. Wild! Anything is possible, friends. Anything is possible. I'll leave you this big, beautiful green space, and I will get on with my walk before it gets way too hot. It's 7 a.m. It's about 33 degrees, about 70% humidity. So my aim is always to get back for a coffee and brekkie with my beautiful man about 8. Yeah, getting into a lot more of the way that the locals eat as well. Have had hotel breakfasts or villa breakfasts wherever we've been booked. We would never do that again because it stops you from enjoying the first meal of the day in the way that locals do. But also, who wants to eat rinse and repeat sausages, bacon and eggs? It's all right for a couple of days, but it's not real flash after a while. So yeah, yesterday I had quang noodles. The day before I had pho, which is a way that Vietnamese locals say pho, which of course they know. They know what they're saying because it's in Vietnamese. So yeah, until next week. Bye bye.